So want to make sure that you get as many questions as we can answered. I just ask that you put them in the chat as we go along, and we'll try to monitor that as best we can. I also want to give a special welcome to all the paralegals and administrative support staff that are a part of this CLE today. We want to thank you for how much you do for all of the people here in Wake County as part of the court system. And we want to make sure that you're getting all of your questions answered as well. And we're here for you as well. So again, a special welcome to you here. The way I'm going to structure this is we're going to go through a PowerPoint presentation and try to talk to you about where we are with eCourts, what we can expect over the next several weeks. And then I want to take you through the eCourts.gov website so that you all be familiar with all of the many resources that are there. But before we get started with the agenda here, I believe the Administrative Office of the Courts Director, Judge Andrew Heath, is joining on here. He just sent me a text. He wanted to be a part of this as well. And I believe he has some words for you. If Judge Heath is on here yet. Judge Heath, are you with us yet? All right, I'll give him another minute to get going here, but first, Judge Heath, can you hear us?
I can hear you. How are you, Judge?
I'm great. Judge Heath, thank you for taking a part of your day to be with us here. We're glad to have you. We've got more than 700 people as a part of the 10th Judicial District that are here as a part of this, that are very much looking forward to us moving forward to electronic filing, but also have some questions that we want to answer as best we can. So, Director Heath, anything you'd like to say before we get started here?
Well, number one, I'd like to thank you, Judge, and Kelly Myers. Y'all have been just tremendous partners and bringing us forward. So just a little bit about eCourts. So this dates back to CalJ, I think, started by Chief Justice Martin in 2015. They formed a technology subcommittee. They made a recommendation in 2017 to undergo a technology modernization of our courts, to go from paper to paperless. A vendor selection committee that included all sorts of stakeholders that intersects with the judicial branch and the court system to come up with requirements for the system. And they created an RFP out of that was put out for bid. Vendor selection committee reviewed those bids and selected Tyler Technologies. Tyler is the biggest player in this space. It's something like 50% of the U.S. population lives in a jurisdiction that has Tyler case management and e-filing products in their court system. And so they're sort of a trusted partner in this space. So we at the AOC worked with Tyler to try to map out all of the business processes of the court and translate those processes into digital processes. So that work has been going on for a while. In August of 2020, we launched statewide something called Guide and Print. Then we launched Brazos, which is electronic citation application. So all of the millions of traffic citations that are issued every year are now issued on that Tyler Technologies Brazos platform. It's been used statewide now for over a year successfully. Then we launched eWarrants in November, and that's now stabilized, and we've cleared the decks to now go to the most public-facing aspect and the system that most attorneys will be using, which is eFiling and Portal. On the court system side, we'll be using the Odyssey Case Manager. So that's the sort of back-end stuff that the court system will use. So we're really on the cusp of this historic launch. We're going to go live February 13th in the pilot counties of Harnett, Johnston, Lee, and Wake. And we're going to have lots of AOC technical resources on site to be standing over the shoulders of Judge Mangum and Kelly and others to try to help them as we launch this product. And that's supplemented with a bunch of folks on help center. So we've really tried to set everybody up for success, and we're excited to be here ready for this launch.
Well, Judge Heath, thank you. And I just want to thank all the people at the administrative office, the courts, for all the time, energy, and effort that you all have put in to the 4 pilot counties here. Question for you. I'm sure it's on the minds of some of the folks in Wake County. Why Wake County? Why didn't we start with the smallest county in the state to see how this works? Why did you come right here to Wake County?
Well, I didn't come to the AOC until 2021, so that decision had already been made long ago. But I believe that the reason for choosing Wake County is because the best people live in Wake County. No, so that's where the AOC is. So proximity was a factor. Good, just natural good relationship with the judicial officials in Wake County because AOC is right here in Wake County, and it's a big county. And so using this cluster that we have of Wake, Harnett, Johnston, and Lee, we've got sort of urban and rural, big and large, and so it was a good mix. The second track is going to be Mecklenburg County, another big county, and those are the 2 biggest counties in the state. And so we really feel like we will encounter the majority of issues that we're going to encounter in those 2 counties, and that it'll be downhill running after that for the rest of the counties in the rollout. So that was, I think, what went into that decision.
Now, Director Heath, from that standpoint, you guys have announced Harnett, Johnston, Lee, Wake County for the 13th, with with Mecklenburg next. Is there a time frame for the rollout for all the remaining 95 counties in our state?
We are on pace to go live with all 100 counties by the end of 2025.
When do you think you all will be able to make more specific statements about where and when the next counties would be after Mecklenburg?
So I've got Brad Fowler with me off camera.
Sure. So we had initial conversations with who we think are going to be in track 3, but we are focused on providing the support for Wake, Harnett, Johnston, Lee to be successful. So we do have a target, a summer target for track 3, but we want to make sure you all are taken care of and supported before we shift focus too much. So after your go live, we expect to announce at least track 3 and 4 within a few weeks after you go live. And then once MEC is live, if we have not already by then, the full statewide rollout announcement will be made.
Great, thank you guys. And to that extent, with us being a pilot county, I just want everybody to remember here that this is the first time that we've all done this in the state of North Carolina, and it's very much a pilot project for the 4 counties that are involved in it. So keep that in mind as we go forward here. And the other part of that being a pilot project, we're not only here to make Wake County go as well as it can possibly go, but we want to be able to create something here with Odyssey that the counties all across the state of North Carolina can replicate. So when you think about why we are doing something in one way, think about it in terms of not just our county, but how this would look in every county across the state and what makes sense. We would like to see at some point a more unified way of handling court. You guys very much know that there's so many local practices across the state that things can look different from one place to another, but we would like for Odyssey to be something that is used uniformly across the state, with taking into account the various judicial districts and how they may work differently. Would you guys agree with that? They're shaking their head, yes. Okay, Director Heath and Mr. Fowler, thank you both. Y'all are welcome to stay on, but I know that you guys have a lot of business over there at AOC, and we appreciate you jumping in here today.
Absolutely. So a couple things before I jump off. Number one, I want everybody to know just how much you, Judge Mangum, and Kelly Myers there to your left have done on this project. We could not have gotten here without you. It has been a tremendous amount of work, and I just wanted to sincerely thank both of you.
Well, you got that. And our whole team here in Wake County, it starts with the senior resident Superior Court judge, the public defender, Deontay Thomas, the DA, Lauren Freeman, and definitely the clerk, Blair Williams, and all of the people that works for him, and a bunch of other people that have literally met for thousands of hours over the last 2 years to make this go. Thousands of hours have gone into this project. And so we're looking forward to it. So again, thank you guys for being here.
You're welcome. And Judge, the second thing I want to say, and then I'll get off, is I've already see there's a dozen questions or so in the chat. If you would, number one, when this is over, forward those to us. And number two, just for everybody listening, if you go to the courts website, nccourts.org, there's an eCourts tab. It's easy to find. We have fairly exhaustive FAQs for attorneys that we put up there. So just scan those, and if you still don't have an answer, you can email us with your questions. But send us that chat with the questions in it. We'll try to get to them.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks a lot.
All right, folks, we're going to switch over and share with you a PowerPoint here in just a minute. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody can see this. Give us a thumbs up if you can see the screen share, if you would, please. Good. Okay, here we go. All right, next slide. All right, our agenda here today for the CLE is coming up. Got it. So what we're going to do is go over the announcement date that we've already talked about here for February 13th. I'm going to give you a little bit more of the history of electronic filing in our state and what we're dealing with right now, what we can expect over the next few days, and then the upcoming weeks. I want to talk about what you should expect once we actually go live. We're going to talk about support that we'll have. We're going to talk about how this will affect you in your practice and what you need to do when you come to court. And then I'm going to go into detail about how we navigate nccourts.gov. All right, next slide. As Director Heath said, February 13th. So far, we've had several go live dates, but I can say at this point, this will happen on February 13th, barring very much unforeseen circumstances. I've got more than 95% confidence that this is a go, where I cannot say that with the last go live date. So you can expect on February 13th for there to be a new day and with electronic filing in our state. Now, if you take something, I'm only going to ask that you really take two things away from this entire presentation. Next slide. Two things. Starting when this goes live on the 13th, lawyers must file electronically through File and Serve. And secondly, judges' signatures must all be electronic signatures. So if you can keep that in mind as we go forward, much of the other things that we're going to talk about here will make sense. Whatever the questions you have, if you can always remember, lawyers must electronically file and judges must electronically sign all documents. All right. Now, a little bit of the history of what we got. Director Heath talked about it for a minute here, but basically, the district court, the Court of Appeals, and the unified court system as we know it all started in the late 1960s with a system of paper only, with some microfilm or microfiche like you'd see in old libraries or state archives that you'd have in clerks' offices that would hold judgments together. But it wasn't until the 1980s that there became to be computer systems in our court system. Candidly, it was under Franklin Freeman's administrative office of the court's tenure that they came up with ACES. So those of you that practice criminal court have probably heard of ACES, but it's that DOS-based system that acts as an index for everything that we have, and it is, believe it or not, still used today. Well, if you're not in criminal court, you do civil court. There we have what's known as VCAP, and VCAP is a 1990s technology that we still use today. So right now we are operating on computer systems that are 30 and 40 years old. Well, in around 2004, the administrative office of the courts and the General Assembly and the court system took a deep dive into trying to come up with something new than these, at the time, were already dated systems. And they asked themselves the question, can we design a software system that will meet the needs of the state's courts ourselves? And after years of attempts in the early 2000s, the answer to that question ended up being no. And so if we move forward, we all know what happened in 2007, 2008, and that ends up with being a statewide recession of which the court system, which was as stretched thin as it's ever been, and particularly in the last 25 years, it was stretched way beyond what we would normally see as far as the money that was available to the court system. That means there's no way for the courts to move forward with technology in the in 2007 for about the next 5 or 6 years. As Judge Heath has already mentioned, that moves us forward to around 2015 and 2016 to a group of stakeholders that were a part of a technology committee that came together and came up with certain recommendations. We had local leaders on that committee, and they came and they said, look, we do not want to mess with trying to create a new software system. What we would like is a vetted, off-the-shelf software product that can handle all the needs of the state's courts. That was the recommendation to the General Assembly and to the Administrative Office of the courts. And so if we move 2 slides over, you'll see here that was in about 2017, and in about 2018, there's competitive bids go out. And anecdotally, one of the things that I hear a lot from people is, well, why didn't we go out and get SAS or a North Carolina company to take on this project? Well, that's a great question. And with any other $80 million project, that has to be put out with a competitive bid. And so of the 5 competitive bids that were placed for companies that had off-the-shelf software products, none of the North Carolina-based companies, including SAS, put out a bid for this project. We basically had 5 bids, with 3 of which being serious contenders, and 2 of the 3 remaining contenders were software companies that joined together to say, hey, we cannot provide all of your needs, but we can do this part. And if we agree that you go and get this other company, we can do this part together. Well, Tyler Technology emerged as the only company in the United States that put in a bid that had a comprehensive, off-the-shelf, vetted software product that can meet all the needs of the state's courts. As Judge Heath mentioned, 52% of the people that live in the United States live in a jurisdiction that has some form of Tyler Technology software in their court system. Having said that, I believe this is going to work when it comes next week. We're not going to have massive statewide, system-wide failures. I just cannot predict that that's going to happen. And why do I say that? Well, because we've never done it here in North Carolina, but several other states have gone live with Tyler products, including Odyssey, that work and have never had some catastrophic failure. So I have a high degree of confidence that this is going to be okay when it gets launched next week. As you can see, we already have 3 Tyler products operating currently. Guide and File, which is not widely used. Brazos Enforcement Mobile, which means that it is any law enforcement officer in the entire state that writes someone a speeding ticket on the side of a road does so with a Tyler product called Brazos that is sent to the clerk's office using Tyler Tech. That's a good thing because that'll be an easy transition to Odyssey. The next thing that we had was e-warrants. And for those of you practice in civil court, you may not have ever heard of this, but e-warrants had to replace NC Aware, which was the North Carolina warrant system that held all warrants statewide. That e-warrant system was the one aspect of this Odyssey rollout and eFiling rollout that had to be created that Tyler did not have. So they did not have that existing piece. So they had to create that to help us replace NC Aware. And by them creating a new system, it took more time than they probably thought that it was going to take. But it also goes back to support the court leaders from 5 and 6 years ago that said, we want an off-the-shelf product. We don't want to have something that's not vetted. So with the warrants rollout happening in July, we are we are at the stage of going forward on February the 13th of this year. So let's go back one slide and let me tell you about all of the different products that Odyssey will replace. So if you look on this slide, we will have ACES, which is the criminal court index that will be replaced. Juvenile court, estates and juvenile court are in case wise. VCAP is being replaced. And if you look down this system, you may or may not recognize some of these other entities, but all of these different hodgepodge of various legacy software systems that are used statewide are being replaced with Odyssey. But it's even more than that, in that we've gotten to the point where it's such a hodgepodge that there are some counties operating with some systems and other counties that don't have it. For example, I believe Mecklenburg has some of their own software systems that are being replaced by Odyssey. So now when I say we will have a uniform e-filing system across the state, it's what it means over there in the circle on the right about all of the things that we're going to have. So you might look at that diagram and go, wait a second, portal, case manager, guide and file, file and serve, financial manager, e-warrants. It all sounds a lot alike. I understand that, but I'm going to show you in just a few minutes about where you can get definitions for all of these things. So it'll be right at your fingertips about what you need to know about. So let's skip forward 2 slides. All right, so February 13th is going to happen. Let's talk about the next couple of weeks about what we can expect in our court system. So you got to remember that only 4 counties go live next week. So what I'm about to tell you is true in Harnett, Johnston, and Lee and Wake County only. It does not apply to the 95 other counties across the state. We've already started integration in that online services for electronic payments by credit cards ceased on February 2nd. That is not to say that we're not taking checks and cash in the courthouse. The Blair Williams's clerk's office is moving along as it does every single day and is absolutely open for business. The next big event is tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for Harnett, Johnston, Lee, and Wake counties, ACES in criminal, VCAP in civil, case-wise in estates and juvenile will freeze in time in Wake County at 7 p.m. tomorrow. That does not mean that they're being erased and they won't be there. They will be there. But anything you look at ACES, JWise, and VCAP for Harnett, Johnston, Lee, and Wake County at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And if you look at it in a week from now, or 10 days from now, or a year from now, it is frozen in time. That does not apply to the other 95 counties. If you're in Durham County, your ACES and VCAP, all of that is running just as it's always run. But if you're in Mecklenburg County or in whatever other county across the state and you're using ACES and you want to look up a criminal record in Wake County, you must understand that we're operating in a hybrid system starting tomorrow night. What you look at in ACES, again, is frozen in time. Well, why do we have to freeze it in time? Well, there has to be a data transfer from all of these old mainframe computers that will go from the mainframes to Odyssey over the period of the next 96 hours. That's Wednesday, all day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and hopefully be done sometime on Saturday or Sunday that transformation of data will end. I left out one other thing about, well, why do we have to do this? You know, we're still in a paper system and these old indexes are so old that if there's problems with those mainframe computers, guess what? You cannot find people that can even understand how to work on a computer system that is 30 or 40 years old. Think about taking your car to a shop to get it fixed. Well, they're used to plugging it into the computer, looking at the codes, seeing what the problems are, but they might not be comfortable working on a 1982 car. Basically, that's what we're moving from. We're moving from a 1982 vehicle to something that's brand new. Now, having said that, what is court going to look like on Thursday and Friday and over the weekend for any type of processes? Well, first of all, e-warrants in criminal court will still be operating, but on Thursday and Friday, we are open for business here in Wake County, but we will be using paper processes only. That means people that if they come into the jail are being coming in and out of the jail, that will be happening just as it's always happened. For your civil actions, your custody cases are still being filed and there's still orders of the court. All of that stuff is happening, but they will not be inputted into a computer system until Odyssey goes live either. And the clerks have the opportunity to input all of that data from Thursday and Friday into Odyssey. So we're predicting that some form of Odyssey will begin for production on Sunday. The clerks will immediately begin inputting the data in from Thursday and Friday. And once that's complete, it's my hope that all of that will be finished by the end of the week. But again, please understand this, your courts are open and operating for business. Now, let's say you're worried about this, and let's say you don't want to mess around with Thursday and Friday coming down here to file something. Well, you still have the opportunity to get down here and file it tomorrow before 5 o'clock. All of that will be updated as it's normally done. Or if you want to wait a week and file something next week, that'll be fine too. But I can't stress to you enough that we're open and operating for business on Thursday and Friday of next week. Now, what are we doing over the weekend? Well, over the weekend, the administrative office of the courts, and there's a team of people that will be down here in your courthouse working to make sure that the transition is going smoothly and will be ready to actually flip the switch on Odyssey for court on Monday. Now, once this goes live, you have to understand that the new Rule 5 from the North Carolina Supreme Court is up and running and is the law of the land from that point forward. All right, next slide, please. Now, okay, we're starting this new computer system here in Wake County. Well, you got to have help. What if something breaks? What if it doesn't work? Well, I want y'all to see on this slide here that in the courthouse, we will have 26, they call them business analysts and process management support, but it's 26 employees from the administrative office of the courts that are experts in using Odyssey. We've worked with these people for 1.5 years and they know what they're doing. And a lot of them, believe it or not, are former clerks. One of the people that's on the call listening in today is a former clerk who worked for years in a clerk's office, who's worked in a judge's office for years and is now literally an expert in dealing with Odyssey. And from what I've seen with the BAPM folks that are with us is they actually speak in a language that court personnel and lawyers understand and court people understand. It's not that they're experts in just software, it's they understand the software and how our courthouse works. Okay, you say, well, what about Judge Mangum? We get in there and the Wi-Fi doesn't work, or we've got a problem with the computer logging on. Well, there we'll have 18 people in Wake County supported by, I believe, 20 more other people remotely that will help us with any type of issues that happen with computers, with scanners, with any of the additional equipment that's been installed here. They're ready to go. One of the things that you guys probably haven't noticed behind the scene, unless somebody's told you, but the Wake County as you know, Wake County is responsible, the actual county government is responsible for our courthouse. And this is their building that we are tenants of. Well, Wake County has spent almost $200,000 updating the wireless internet in the courthouse. And we've gone from under 10 wireless access points to I believe 187 different wireless access points. So the Wi-Fi has been moved up. All of our technology is in a good, at least the hardware is in a good place right now. And I feel like we can handle what we've got. All right, next slide. How's this going to affect you? That's what you guys are really here for. And when I said to you earlier, how does this affect me? Okay, what did I say? Well, lawyers must file electronically and judges must sign electronically. It's a new day in the court system. The days of walking up to a judge with some consent order and you're presenting that piece of paper to them for a signature by a judge and you go back downstairs and file it, or in domestic court where you submit a consent order on right before the trial starts, you get all the signatures on it. Well, this is a new day. And if you can see the rule here, the Supreme Court has modified Rule 5 of the North Carolina General Rules of Practice to require that a lawyer must file pleadings and other documents electronically. So even if it's an emergency that your person's about to get arrested, or judge, we just finished this settlement in this particular case, please sign off on this. Those days are over starting February 13th. Now, I don't want that to cause alarm for you. There are ways that you can handle electronic filing even from the courtroom. All right, next slide. One thing I want to point out about the new Rule 5 is what does it mean when you file something electronically, and what does it mean? Like, all right, let's say it's 6 o'clock at night and you file a document. Well, it's just like it is right now. If it's filed at 5 o'clock and accepted, that the deadline's 5 p.m., then that's when the deadline is. If you try to file something at 8 o'clock at night, it was due in the clerk's office 3 hours before. Well, guess what? That's still 3 hours before, 3 hours late. You have to understand that all of those rules still apply. Next slide. Here's the part about what judges must do. And so the Supreme Court changed this rule about a year ago, and this past February 1st of this year, changed it and added even more language to it to make it very clear to lawyers and judges that lawyers must file and judges must sign orders electronically. See the revision to Rule 5. Last week, before it came to court, it said the court may sign an order electronically. And now it says, barring exceptional circumstances, the court must sign and file electronically. And we're talking about exceptional circumstances, not that, hey, I'm in a hurry to get down here to the courthouse, or we just worked this out. When we mean exceptional circumstances, we mean catastrophic failure of computer systems, hurricanes, floods, some reason the court's not open, something major, not just my guy's about to get arrested. So I want to make sure that's very clear about the new Rule 5 that's in place. Keep in mind that this amendment to Rule 5 only applies to Harnett, Johnson, Lee, and Wake County, but there's no exception. If you're a lawyer that practices in Durham or Orange County and you have your foot in the water over here in Wake County, you are bound by these exact same rules. There's no exception for a lawyer that practices in another county to come here and do this. You got to make sure lawyers are ready to go if you choose to practice in Wake County, that you're ready for this implementation of Rule 5. We also have to make sure that people have access to their court system in our state. And if we go back one slide, you'll know, 2 slides actually. All right, you'll notice here that it just talks about an attorney must file, and then on 5B2, second sentence, a person who is not represented by an attorney is encouraged to file pleadings and other documents electronically, but they don't have to do that. So if a person is representing themselves, they still have the same ability to come into the courthouse and file a motion to strike a new court date that would be accepted as paper, or that a person who is trying to start a landlord-tenant action, they still have access to their courts and they can still use the paper if they're not represented by an attorney. But the Supreme Court, in passing this, was very clear that lawyers must file, pro se litigants may file electronically. All right, let's move forward. What's this really going to look like? Okay. All right. You have to keep in mind that in some way we might have a soft landing when we start next week. All of the files that were in paper that existed prior to February 13th will still be there in paper format. So if you walk into domestic court and you've got that child custody case that never ends and it has 2 court files and it's 5 inches thick, that court file will still exist in paper. The DWI case that you've had continued 6 or 7 times will still be in paper. The traffic ticket will still be in paper. Again, all paper files still exist in their paper format. What is being transferred over from ACES is what's included in the index. And I say ACES, VCAP and ACES. So you guys have always known that, okay, if I go onto ACES or into VCAP, I can see that there was a judgment and I can see that was certain information kept, but not the actual documents. So all of the stuff from ACES and VCAP will go into Odyssey for those systems, but we still have our paper files. You're still going to write a new court date on a paper file. Now, yes, orders must be signed electronically in all levels of court: civil superior, civil district, criminal, domestic, civil criminal, everything. So we'll have a hybrid sense, and until we've resolved all of the files or all of the cases that are in paper format now, they have final judgments and they're scanned into the system, and we're operating with just files that were created after February 13th. There'll be some paper in old files and no paper in new files. This is where you have to pay attention. You got to keep in mind February 13th, because what I am not saying to you is that old paper files will have old paper orders and it's okay to do things in paper. That is not what I'm saying. Those paper files that existed prior to February 13th across all levels of our courts still must have filings made electronically by lawyers and orders signed electronically by judges. So for court next week, you might be going, holy mackerel, how do I keep up with all this? Well, you go in and you have 5 or 6 DWIs or 5 or 6 custody cases on a calendar. You still have the benefit of that. The DA or the judge might still write the court date on there. Yes, all of that will be uploaded into Odyssey, but please don't come into court next week thinking that all of this paper is now gone. Now, at some point, if the clerk's office is able to catch up and scan all of these existing documents, you'll have plenty of notice of that happening, and all of those documents would be scanned into Odyssey. But that is not something that is going to happen in Wake County right away. There are a few files that will already be there in their complete format, and those are limited to those e-citations that are filed in Brazos that we hope will show up in Odyssey as well. But again, the paper file is still there next week. All right. Next slide. Actually go back. I want to say one more thing about thinking about a hybrid system here. Folks, if you practice in Harnett County, or excuse me, if you practice in Franklin County as well as in Raleigh, you still go to Franklin County under the old rules and the old paper system. If you're a lawyer in Wake, certainly you can't file electronically because that's not a thing yet in all of these counties, just in the 4 counties that we have now. All right, skip forward. Here's a big thing that you really need to remember. Everybody that's worked in the court system at some point as a DA or a PD or clerk or whatever probably knows that 910 is our county identifier. And you see Johnston, Lee, and Harnett County. There is one pretty big change with Odyssey in that when we punch in a case number, we would punch in the year as we've always done, the case type as we've always done, the sequential number, but then it must include -910 for Wake. And I'll show you where to get all the other county codes on eCourts. But if you got to remember a number today, remember 910 for Wake County. All right. Next, go back 2 slides. Let's see. All right, go forward. All right, what do you guys need to bring with you to make this happen? None of you need to go out and buy a $3,000 computer from Best Buy over the weekend. That is not necessary. When we get to the part about eCourts.gov, I'll bring up the exact requirements, but basically you need some sort of computer device to bring with you that you're able to access the county internet. And if you're not comfortable or worried about that being spotty or not, you're not able to log on, I suggest that you also bring a mobile hotspot with you. A lot of the phone plans now already have a hotspot that you might even want to use your hotspot and not even mess with the county internet. But if you have some computer device that you're comfortable, you would be able to access documents, type in basic information into, and file something when you're in a courtroom or standing outside of a courtroom. I recommend that you bring that with you. You know, it might be different types of devices for different folks. Some people might be totally comfortable bringing in just their phone. Others might want a complete laptop with all the bells and whistles on it. Others might be comfortable with the laptop. You guys know we're in a busy courthouse, and if you're worried about dropping something, it doesn't have to be, you know, some fancy thing that you're worried about losing, or you might want to go out and buy a fancy, this might give you a good reason to go out and buy a new iPad that's the iPad Pro or whatever. But I'll show you all the exact requirements you need in just a moment. One other thing I would recommend that you have access to is a mobile scanning application. There are plenty of them out there as apps on a phone that would allow you to come in, scan a document that your client has just handed you, even though you've told them to bring it to you or email it to you for the last 2 weeks, and they show up on the day of court with the piece of paper, you would still be responsible for electronically filing that. So if you get yourself access to a mobile scanning app, you can do that very easily and electronically file that from the courtroom or just outside the courtroom. So again, there are no exceptions to the Supreme Court rule that we have to electronically file for lawyers. All right, next slide. What else do you need to bring with you? Patience, patience, patience. This is new for all of us. The reality of this system here makes district court look a lot more like how a superior courtroom is run. Many of the old local practices, like writing your name on the side of a file as a local practice, are going to go away with this new system. And a lot of it puts an emphasis on the clerk to make sure that they're keeping up and putting things into Odyssey. So please be patient with them. Please be patient if your case takes a little bit longer to get heard over the next couple of weeks as we're getting started on this. And if you're patient please, again, be patient for everything that you do coming into court with you next week. It could take a little bit more time. And I believe all of our judges here in Wake County are committed to being patient with you and learning how to use this new system. You know, we've had, as I've already said, we've had people working on this for thousands of hours over the last 2 years. And I am sure there's going to be things that we've practiced and tried and thought would work great. And when we get in there, we're going to realize that, wait, maybe this doesn't work like we thought we're going to do. We can make changes as we go along. But please let me know those types of things that you see if we're doing something, or if you have good ideas about how to make things work better once we get the hang of this. We're committed here as a judicial system to make the changes we need if we're not doing something the right way. But it's really a new project for all of us. You know, when this announcement was made that we're going to go live, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court asked us all down to the Supreme Court chambers and announced to us there that this is as big of a change that the court system has ever seen, even since the creation of the unified court system in the late 60s and the creation of the rules of civil procedure. So if you go into with that mind and with an open mind that we can pull this off here, and it's a new day in our courts, it absolutely is, but we just beg of you to be patient with all of us as we go through this. All right, next slide. What did I say to you when we started? You must file electronically. Documents must be signed electronically. I like to think about best practices, and, you know, let's say you want to know more than the bare minimum. I would suggest that especially while we're getting used to this, that you file any documents with your case more than 24 hours before the court date to make sure that the document is accepted and attached to the correct file. That's absolutely a best practice. I would encourage all of you to go back and look at any dispositions, any orders, any sentences, anything that you file in Odyssey, to go back and make sure it looks correct. Make sure if you see a problem that the clerk, you know, made a mistake on something, that we get that corrected as quickly as we can. If you see a court date that didn't get captured correctly, we'll make sure it's there. Whatever it is, I really encourage you to follow up on what we're doing down here to make sure that something in your case does not get overlooked. All right. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about the eCourts.gov website for a moment. And I'm going to change over to the actual internet here, and I'm going to take you through this website so you can see all of the resources that we have. All right. All right, we're working on it. All right, here we go. All right, this is me with my fancy mouse here trying to work this website. Okay, eCourts. All right, I'm gonna hide that. I don't want to look at myself. So the eCourts.gov website, what's happening here? All right, the eCourts.gov website is fantastic. There's so much information on here, you'd be amazed. But the first thing I want to do is at the header, it has more information. Let's click that, and we're going to look at eCourts. So what do you need to do to prepare for court? Your natural reaction is to go to, I am a member of the bar, and start checking that. Don't check that just yet. Let's scroll down and see what else we've got here. All right, what is eCourts? Remember I said there was a definition section of all of those different things? Well, here's what it is. eFiling and Odyssey, you can see the definitions of those things right now. So we have a web-based platform for electronic filing. Odyssey is our case management system. And Portal, which is very important, is the public-facing website for viewing records and making payments. So there's a difference between e-filing and Portal. You as a lawyer would e-file something, but the public, that let's say the news media or somebody, you want to go look at a record on something, the public-facing court file, meaning docketable events, is what shows up in Portal. Let's scroll down here. E-warrants is the electronic criminal warrant repository. Brazos, as I've already said, is the electronic citation platform, and Crave is the courtroom enhancements that are coming to Wake County, hopefully in the next several weeks. So that's the definition section. Here are some of the things that we can do in Wake County. If you want to see about the rollout schedule, click right here. And it'll show you the rollout map. And as we've already talked about here, this is the 4-county area to go on the 13th. This is in May for Mecklenburg. And if you're interested to know what group your county will be in, this is where I'd go to see those go live dates. You can see how certain parts of the state are lumped in here together. But that's what's next. See, all of that information will be here for you. Now, all right, let's say something as simple as, all right, you're telling me to sign up. How do I sign up for this thing? Well, let's scroll back up here to the landing page. All right, we started at the top. We're going to scroll down to eFiling. All right, here's all this stuff that I have to do. How do I register? We're going to click from the landing page. And from this point here, this is how you e-file. If you've already registered as a user, you sign in and view your account here. If you have not done so, you need to go to this page and either register for a firm account or register as an individual user. You see, AOC gives you guidance about whether you should be a firm account or not. If you look on here, you'll see registering for a firm account would be all legal professionals, including solo practitioners, attorneys, paralegals, whatever you may have. You would go to that area, you'd register by clicking this, and then it's a simple fill out the information on here. It's pretty straightforward, but I strongly encourage you to go ahead and have that done before you come to court next week. If there's problems, we can fix it before next week. Let's go back. All right, well, why would you have an individual account? Let's say you're a pro se individual and you want to file something. Well, this is what you have. Pro Hoc V lawyers can file or create an individual account. But that's a decision you and your firm should make soon. If you've not already done it, do it as quickly as you can. All right, let's go back to. All right, hold on. All right, here we go. So we've explored that part. Let's go back to eCourts and we're going to take a look at, I'm a member of the bar. Let's check this out and see what we've got. Okay. Here again, it has the explanation of who and what needs to sign up. But this is the point here that has a ton of information that can help you. Okay, guys, look at the FAQs for attorneys. If you don't have this bookmarked on your computer, do it. Let's click the FAQs. All right, you'll see here that, oh, this is some PDF. You guys got to keep in mind that these FAQs are updated almost continuously. This document's been there for months, and the last time it was modified was 3 days ago. Let's take a look at the e-filing FAQs. All of the questions that you have here they're most likely they've been asked for, and there's some answer. I want to show you the different categories. Let's say you're having a hard time with registration. Register here. Any type of filing. So look, here's a great one. Let's look at filing. How will an attorney know where a document is in the process and how can they track it? Answer. If it's been filed using File and Serve, you'll get an email notification when it's successful and when it's either accepted or returned. That's a great example of the great questions that are answered in these FAQs. That all has to do with filing. Let's look down here. How about this? After the summons and complaint have been filed electronically, who's responsible for getting those documents to the sheriff? You've got to remember that sheriff's office, it's my understanding, do not have access to this system. And you would still be responsible for getting those documents over to the sheriff's for service or whatever other reason in paper. But this document takes you through the answers to all of that. A lot of you have had questions about expungements, LDPs, driving privileges, payment, all of that is answered in this. Let's go down here to courtroom practices. What if you're in trial? Let's see. Confidentiality. I've gotten a great questions about confidentiality, privacy, special proceedings. Yes, Odyssey can accommodate all of those confidentiality concerns, but that still means you should go back through and check our work to make sure whatever it is you believe should be confidential doesn't accidentally show up somewhere. All of the answers to that about confidentiality are in here. More about filing. Let's keep on going. So that's 10 pages of documents of questions that you all have access to on a regular basis. Let's go back up to right there. All right. Back to, I'm a member of the bar, scroll down and say, look, I need more help than this. Let me see some videos. Click that filer training video. And then there's links to YouTube videos that I'm going to give you an example of here that will take you through all of what you need here. Just let this commercial in and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Oh, where'd the video go? It's hiding from me. Not sure you can hear it right there, but this is, it's not for the purpose of you to watch it all right now, but I'm just trying to show you where the resources are. There's tons of these videos on here. Like, let's click eCourts the subscriber page on YouTube, and let's just see all of the different videos that they have here. There's tons of them, guys. Recently uploaded. Odyssey demos right here. Crave, when we talk about Crave, what does that mean? And there's tons and tons of videos up here that will help you get through all of this. All right, let's go back to, I'm a member of the bar. Back to the main page. Scroll down. Let's say you don't want to watch a video, but you want to see an overview PowerPoint on what to do about file and serve. It's right there. We can just click it, go through at your own pace, and this will show you exactly what you need to know about how to do file and serve on your own. And I don't think I have control over it from here, but that's how you do that, folks. All right, let's go back out to members of the public. Talks to you about what members of the public have, but here it'll talk about portal and what you do or don't have access to. So I want you to think about this for a minute, and I want you to think not about the next couple of weeks, but let's talk about 5 years from now. And let's say somebody comes into your office and you're in Wake County and they have a matter that you want to see. They're talking about some ticket they had or some order they had in another county. And rather than having to call someone to go over to Orange County to pull the file or look up documents, you would be able to go to portal and find whatever it is you need that's the public facing part of the court file from anywhere in the United States or abroad, so long as you have internet access, and look at what you need to look at. That's going to save you an incredible amount of time, and it's going to make you practicing law in a lot of ways quite easier. The days of having to, come back from out of town to file something because you went out of town and there's an emergency that's popped up. You can do all of that from the beach, from Europe, wherever it is you want to do it. And we see that as one of the greatest benefits of this new system here. We're really moving forward, to be honest with you, and getting away from a paper system with an old index to something that can serve our court system for the next 20 years or more. Now, let me go back to the main screen. Let's go back to the questions and comments. Stop sharing. And let's go back up to some of the questions here, and let's just take a shot at trying to answer some of the questions. So, yes, special proceedings will be filed when Odyssey starts next week. So, yes, there will be Odyssey. You can make your special proceeding filing from another county, but keep in mind that those rules apply to electronic filing for individuals represented by an attorney. Your cousin can still go down and get the IBC at the magistrate's office at Harnett, Johnston, and Wake County with a piece of paper, but the lawyers have the benefit of not having to drive all the way down there and do this. They can do those filings electronically from their home. Let's see the next question. Great question here. When we file via Odyssey, will we submit one PDF with everything, or we need to upload each document? Lily, I'm going to pick on you for that one because I don't want to say that wrong. What do you think about that, Lily? I got to make sure Lily's unmuted here. All right, I'll wait to get Lily on here. We're going to jump to the next question. Will board attorneys be required to file cover sheets with objections to surety's motion to set aside? Quick answer to that is the rule does not have exceptions for lawyers. Lawyers must file electronically. Original wills for probate, again, lawyers submitting documents to the court electronically. The DA, Lauren Freeman, has added a comment here. Lauren makes a great point by starting here in Wake with her volume. We have to show what this is going to be like here in Wake County to the people at AOC. I strongly believe that if any county in this state can pull this off, that what we're going to do, Wake County can do it. You may ask, well, why didn't you close 5 or 6 or 10 courtrooms or make it be like the skeleton court like we have over holidays? No, we need to have a busy court system next week so AOC and so that all our partners can see how this goes over the next couple of weeks in Wake County to demonstrate what the strengths are and what the weaknesses of it are. Again, it's a pilot project and we need to have a fair look as to what happened. Lily's got her answer here. So the question, if we go back up to Emma, the answer is all documents needed to be added separately based on document type. Like, is it a complaint? Is it a motion? Or is it something else? Once you go to a filing and you're a lawyer, it is pretty self-explanatory about what it is. You just check the appropriate box of what it is you're doing, and it should help you populate and get through it. Let's say you make a mistake though. Let's say you screw this up on day one and you've made a mess of something. We're going to be here to try to help fix all that, guys. We don't want to see you do anything wrong here. Kelly.
I was just going to say, that's called the filing code. And it's very important that you at least attempt to select the appropriate filing code when you are filing, because it will set off a lot of automatic processes behind the scenes. That's all.
Fantastic. All right, next question. Another type of payment method. All right, can there be more than credit card and e-checks as payment methods? I'm gonna bounce that one off to Lily as well. I'm not sure of the answer to that, but I'll have that answer for you in a minute, Sharon. Will attorneys of record be served as part of the filing? Yes. Another benefit of this is it's file and serve. The rules now allow for documents to be served electronically for the first time. That means you need to be monitoring your email and in addition to your mailbox, folks.
Electronic check or credit card only per Lily.
Electronic check or credit card only per Lily. Filing fees with current bank information or credit card info, are we limited to our trust accounts? Trey, I'll have that one answered for you in just a minute. Will AOC forms be available in Odyssey or only AOC website? Thanks. It's my understanding that most AOC forms will be tokenized into Odyssey. I don't want to say all right now, but obviously we're a system of forms that has relied heavily on forms. And I suspect that as we get more used to using Odyssey, more AOC forms and the use of those AOC forms will increase over time. But those AOC forms are still a very big part of the system that we operated in. Brandy's asking for the slides. We will work on those slides and get them to you as soon as we can. Can any attorney file in a case or only the attorney of record? I do not believe that attorneys that do not have some standing in a case can make a filing. If you think, Shauna, that's a great question, but the rules of civil procedure do not change with this. If you can file something in a normal filing now, then you should be able to make a filing in an existing case. Let's say, I'm trying to think of a situation. Let's say you have a plaintiff and a defendant in a custody case, and there's some motion to intervene in a child custody case. It's my belief that Odyssey will be able to accommodate all of that. Great question. Do you need to register Odyssey separately from file and serve? I believe the answer to that is no.
They will not be using Odyssey ICMS. Lawyers will be using file and serve and portal.
So guys, remember this, Odyssey is the behind the scenes court system. If you think of Odyssey, think that's what's behind the counter in the clerk's office. All you got to get to know about here is file and serve. If you're a practitioner or you're a lawyer, you're a paralegal or an administrator, just think file and serve. Everything else behind it will work itself out. All right. Sean Cole, will there be updates so that the system will fully work on a platform other than Firefox since it has problems on Google, Safari, Chrome, and Microsoft Edge? It's my belief, Sean, that Odyssey and Tyler want this to work in all of the jurisdictions that are in. I'm not aware of specific problems on other platforms, but I'll find an answer to you specifically on that. All right. Civil calendar requests also submitted by file and serve. Brad, great question. I believe that since a calendar request is not a document that goes into a court file, I do not believe at this time the rules regarding calendar requests across all levels of civil court will change in Wake County at this time. That could change at some point in the future, but calendar requests, since that's not a formal filing, can be done outside of Odyssey in the current existing manner that we do it. David Coates, the deadline for filings is still 5 o'clock.
Can I note that the reason that decision was made as of 5 p.m. is because the rest of the state that's not yet on e-filing and Odyssey is still 5 p.m. when the clerk's office doors close. So it would be unfair to allow you to file until midnight in Johnson, Wakely, and Harnett, but 5 p.m. in all other counties. That may also change when we go statewide.
All right, will the electronic only filing requirement apply to estates and filings with the clerk? I believe that answer is yes. I know of no exception. In what instances will an electronic filing not be accepted? Beth, that's a great question. So let's say somebody walks in and you might have heard of the term sovereign citizen, and I'll pick on somebody here. Let's say Judge Ridgway has done something terrible in a civil case, and so somebody comes in and tries to put $1 trillion judgment on Judge Ridgway and file that. The clerk across all levels of court can reject a filing like that. Now, let's say this. Let's say you walk down or you screw something up and you try to file something in paper or you're not doing it right. That doesn't mean your filing is being rejected. All of those filings will be redirected to file and serve. The people in the clerk's office aren't there to say no to you. They want to say yes, and they're going to get you to the right place. They'll say, look, you just got to, lawyer such and such, you just got to go file this. But that's an example, Beth, of when something would be rejected by a clerk. How do we change firm administrators? I'll find out for you, Scott. That's a good question, but I strongly believe that you'll have that ability to do that.
I would suggest when you go to that file and serve website, down the bottom left-hand corner, there was a little blurb that said click for support, and they click there and get some help from Tyler on how to do that.
All right. Cynthia, great question. For Wake County, are we still able to request the court file through the file request? And email specifically for the files that are still in paper? So I take it that means you want to look at an existing court file that is not a paper file. Yes, you'll still be able to look at an existing paper file. Will our traffic clients still be able to pay the court costs online? Once Odyssey is up and running, yes. So an e-citation that has never been to court may never go into a shuck, even though it was before written previous to today. I believe the answer to that, Katie, is no. February 13th is the day that this goes live. I believe that the clerks will have a paper file for everything that starts before that. If that changes, I'll reach out to you specifically to let you know. Will exhibits which are not accepted by Odyssey be stored? Will there be paper files for new cases, video, high resolution photos? All right, that's a great question. How do you deal with exhibits? All right, that's one that I always try to like hedge on a little bit. Let's say that you have a jury trial in Superior Court and you've got big photos that you want to show to the jury. You've got a knife. You guys obviously know that not all exhibits are act as a filing, right? The clerk's office still has a way to maintain exhibits that must be held by the clerk of Superior Court in a criminal case, but the rules don't apply over all levels of court. Think about it like this. Okay, in domestic court, we frequently say lawyers keep your own exhibits. Nothing changes about that. But then in another way of court, we might have, Your Honor, in a DWI sentencing, we've got one piece of paper to show you that my guy has done his 24 hours of community service. Well, in that situation, that's something that you would probably want as a part of the court file for many different reasons. And the answer to that is yes, you do file that. I understand that the question about exhibits is a complicated one. And so be patient with the court system about how that goes. Ultimately, it's the control of the presiding judge. But what we do not want to have happen is a system that, yes, we're electronic filing, but oh yeah, by the way, we still have all these documents for every case that we have. No, we don't want to do that either. But think about it this way. Is this some one single piece of paper that you can file electronically, or are these real documents that you expect that will need to go into the clerk's custody until this case is cleared and appealed? There are two different things going on there, and I just ask that you think about it in that context. Great question. County code only for criminal cases. Sharon, no. What happens in counties that do not allow cell phones like the courthouses like Harnett and Lee? I don't want to speak for the court leaders in Harnett, Johnston, and Lee County. That's for them to make that decision about how they operate. Lawyers in Wake County can bring a cell phone into the building. App for Odyssey or go through web browser. John, I'm not sure that there's a mobile product, a mobile app for it. I believe you go through a browser. I'll find out if I'm wrong about that and I'll let you know. Scott, great question. Have firm administrator logins and passwords been issued? I believe that firms can pre-register and many have pre-registered, and I believe that that will be done already, but I'll let Lily chime in on, and I'll have an answer for sure for you for that one in a moment. All right, yeah, no web app. All right, we were told by Tyler that firm's administrator could not invite individual users to the account until the system went live on 2/13. Is that correct? Lily, if you could take this one here and expand on this answer, I want to make sure I don't tell you all the wrong thing about that. Is there a way for judges to review files in the system without registering for file and serve? That's a good one.
Well, file and serve is only for filing. And so if a judge wants to look at a court file, that you just go to portal, go to the website, go to the portal, type in the file number, and you can look at anything that's publicly available.
Judge Turrentine, I'll get back to you on that. I want to make sure that judges, let's say you're a judge in another county and you want to look at Odyssey. A lot of that has to do with the rights and roles. And so I believe the question is, can a judge in another county look at what's going on in Wake County behind the scenes through Odyssey? And I'm not sure about that, but I'll find out for you.
Yes, they just need an account.
All right, let's see. Will there be able to request a civil summons be issued with multiple addresses? Should be, yes. Should juvenile defenders direct parents to access their child's records? Attorneys can request elevated access. I do not believe that parents would have elevated access. I'll refer you to Judge Hamadani and Judge Chassie to get the specific answer to that question. That has been answered. I want to make sure I don't tell you the wrong thing about that. All right. I've already answered the Shelby, the good question about scanning in exhibits. Judge Rader's on here from Blair. Yeah, I see Judge Rader. He got out before the getting was good on this. Still cleaning up his mess down here. All right, judges are internal users of the file and will not use file and serve. Will there be calendars? Will there be a calendar available for criminal court? Yes, calendars are a big part of what we do. How long before the uploaded documents are reviewed in a case document, in case a document is rejected? Yeah, I think Lily's exactly right on that. Jack, you got to give us a little time to make sure we're up and running on this. I believe that the speed with which documents would be accepted in a clerk's office will get much faster as we go forward. Much faster. I'd give at least 24 hours for now. That's why I suggested earlier on in the PowerPoint that you file at least 24 hours before. Can you add additional email addresses to receive filings or notice of filings? Eric, I believe that you have one email address that you get access to. It's one and only one. Do lawyers need to electronically sign, or can they physically sign and scan? Lawyers can put a wet signature on something, scan it in, and file it. That is acceptable.
That's right there. Ps and Ts are in.
All right, how will writs of execution be processed? Again, in paper, I want to come back to you on that question about specifically about writs of execution to make sure I'm understanding what you're getting at. But as I understand it, those writs end up with the court, and if it ends up in a court file and it's a lawyer involved, it's expected to be done electronically. Let's see. Sean, I can only imagine the song you're going to come up with for this at the bar awards. All right, how quickly do you think a summons will be issued when a lawsuit is filed and summons is submitted? Can we anticipate same day within 24 hours? Alice Womack, great question. Is there a specific process for consent, submitting family court consent orders? I believe you got an email this week about how to submit orders for family court. Alice, take a look at your email. But there is a process for submitted orders to be filed, to be submitted through Odyssey. As we all know, you don't file a proposed order, but lawyers would be expected to submit an order through Odyssey. File and serve, excuse me, not through Odyssey, correct. How will it work if our firm joins with another firm to the litigation? Would one firm then serve the second firm? Odyssey and File and Serve had the ability to have multiple firms and multiple counsels of record for one case. Very specific here for condemnation cases are settled with a consent judgment. How will additional sums called for in the consent judgment be paid? I'm going to pass that one off to the clerk. I'm not sure about the answer to that one, Brad, but we'll find out. For emergency custody filings that usually receive a same-day decision from the judge, will there be a 24 working hour delay? No, we will accommodate your emergency filing. How will in custody defendants sign a plea transcript or documents? David, the only two rules are you must electronically file and the judge must electronically sign. Let's say you walk into court with the signed plea transcript and 5 minutes before you've got the DA to make an additional concession. Well, what we plan to do across district court and superior court is you go through the entire plea transcript colloquially with the judge makes whatever corrections they want to make without signing it. Let your client, whomever, sign it in wet signatures, hand it back to the district attorney once it's finished. And what's the rules? Electronically file, electronically sign. The DA electronically files that that plea transcript with the wet signature on it, and any changes that the judges wanted to make goes to the clerk sends it to the judge in the judge's queue, and they sign it electronically. So the rules are being met. File electronically, sign electronically. Great question. Outside the courts that have access to ACES and VCAP, we'd be able to register for Odyssey. Lily answered that. Portal. Should we have an electronic version of exhibits in addition to trial notebooks ready for hearings in family court? I would hate to tell judges that you have to not do that if you don't want to, but I believe that you would still be able to bring your paper notebook to court with you and do it as you see fit. As I've already said, not every document that comes before the court needs to be in a court file. So again, we've had a lot of questions on the question about exhibits. I don't see that current process to change a lot because, as you know, a lot of that stuff is an exhibit is handed right back to the clients, to the lawyers at the end of it. The judge says, hang on to these for any appellate purposes. Also, Laura, you've got an email coming out from your family court team earlier this week that addresses a lot of that. You have automatic access to portal.
The portal and filing server separate.
Criminal district court hearings on lien holder petition for seized motor vehicles.
The FAQs address how to obtain certified copies from the clerk's office.
Yeah, so judges electronically sign. Chris, you got a good question. Judges electronically sign, and the clerk has a process to give you certified copies. Let's see, Tiffany, what about court orders that need to be entered? Are those not filed through eFile?
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
You'll select proposed order from file and serve as the filing code. And then that'll let the clerk's office and our office know where it needs to go. By the way, proposed orders, the system will require that you submit your proposed orders in Word and PDF every time.
For non-English proficient pro se parties, will they be able to access file and serve in other languages?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. We were previously advised that only one address per defendant would be allowed. I'm not sure. I'll find out more about that. Parents or statute, let's see. All right, I think we're running out of time on the questions. It's almost 5:30 here. Let me see, get through the rest of it.
Will the bar award songs have to be submitted via file and serve?
Well, the bar award songs have to be submitted via file and serve. Oh, Sean, I'm not going to come to the bar awards this year because I know I'm going to get it. All right, guys, that's about the end of the presentation here. But, you know, I appreciate y'all being on here today. I know that this is going to present a million more questions in your mind. If you take anything away from this presentation today, be patient. We will be patient with you. Electronically file, judges electronically sign, and we'll get all this sorted out. The best description I can give of what we're getting ready to go through is that my mother-in-law had to have a knee replacement surgery not all that long ago. And she hobbled around on a bad knee for years, but she got around and it was a little bit slower for you know, especially up till the end. And that's kind of where the court system is now. She had a surgery and we're getting ready to have a surgery over the weekend and into next week. And there can be complications with surgery. There can be problems. It can be slower for a while and there can be challenges. Unforeseen things happen. But what we hope is through the rehab that 5 months from now, we'll all be able to look back and go, man, I'm so glad I don't have to go back down there and chase a judge down or do this in 8 million different ways. And I can all do this from my house. I encourage you to embrace this. It's a long time coming, and we need to get here. The reality of it is that none of us go to doctors' offices that operate in paper. We don't put our money in banks that operate in paper systems with 40-year-old indexes. It's a change that has to happen and should have happened a long time ago, but we're here. I hope this helps. All of the people of the Wake County court system down here, Judge Ridgway, Lauren, Deontay, Blair, Kelly, Alicia, all of us that have been working on this so hard are here to answer your questions. We want to help you. Please come to us with your questions. If you see stuff that we are screwing up on, come tell us. We want to get it right for you. All right, guys, it is 5:30 on the dot. I appreciate it. You guys have a great day and we will see you soon.